Hey TechGalore fam, welcome back to the channel where we break down the coolest tech and programming concepts into bite-sized, easy to digest pieces. If you're new here, I'm Nick, and today we're diving into the basics of Python. Python is one of the most popular programming languages out there, and it's used for everything from web development to data science. But before you can start building the next big thing, you need to understand the basics. So let's get right into it. In Python, indentation is crucial because it defines the structure and flow of the code. Unlike many other programming languages that uses braces or keywords such as begin and end to group statements, Python uses indentation to represent blocks of code. As you can see here in this little snippet of code, the print_hi is indented, which means it is a part of the if block. This tells Python that the print_hi should only be executed if the condition up here is true. Without proper indentation, Python would not know which statement belongs to the if block. For example, if we remove the indentation, we have an error here and our program would crash. We put back that indentation and the error disappears and we're able to run our program. Indentation also improves the readability of the code by clearly showing the hierarchy and the group of statements. It makes it much easier to understand which parts of the code will be executed under specific conditions. Next up, let's talk about variables and data types. Think of variables as containers that store data for you to use at a later date, like a box where you can keep your stuff. Here we have name equal TechGalore. This is an example of a string. A string is a sequence of characters enclosed within quotes. In this case, TechGalore is a string and it's assigned to the variable name. Strings are used to represent text, such as names, words, or any other kind of text data. You can use single quote or double quotes to create a string in Python. On the next line, we have age equal 5, which is an integer. An integer is a whole number without a decimal point. And in this example, we have 5, which is the integer, and it's assigned to the variable age. Integers are used when you need to represent countable items such as age, number of items, or any other scenario where fractional values are not needed. We have pi equal to 3.14159. This is an example of a float. A float is a number that includes a decimal point. For example, 3.14159, and it's assigned to the variable pi. Floats are used to represent numbers that require precision beyond whole numbers, such as measurements, currency, or even mathematically constants like pi. Here we have on the last line is_active equal true. This is an example of a boolean, which is often shortened for bool, and is a data type that can only hold one of two values, which is either true or false. In this case, we're using true. True is a boolean value assigned to the variable is_active. Booleans are often used in conditions and comparisons to control the flow of a program, such as determining if a user is active, if a process is complete, or if a certain condition is met. So these are the fundamentals. These are the fundamental data types in Python, and they form the building blocks to create more complex programs. You'll encounter and use them as frequent as you write your Python code. Now let's make our program a bit more interactive with input and output operations. Python makes it super easy to get input from a user and displays the output. Let's write a quick script where we ask for the user's name and greet them. We'll use the input function to get their name and the print function to display the greeting. So here we have a small snippet of code. Here is the name equal input. What's your name? This line of code uses the input function to prompt the user to enter some text. The message inside the parentheses, what's your name, is what the user will see on the screen. It's the prompt asking the user for their name. The input function then waits for the user to type something and press enter. Whatever the user typed is captured as a string and stored in a variable name. The input function is essential for making your program interactive. It allows your program to get information from the user while the program is still running. On the second line here, we have the print function, hello, plus the name, plus welcome to TechGalore. This line of code uses the print function to display a message on a screen. The message combines a fixed string, hello, with the user input stored in the variable name, followed by another fixed string, welcome to TechGalore. The plus operator is used to join these strings together into one complete message. The print function is how you output to the user. It allows you to display messages, results, or any information you want the users to see. So this small piece of code illustrates how you can interact with users by asking them for input and responding to that input. This interaction is fundamental to making your programs dynamic and user-friendly. By capturing user input and responding to it, your program can perform tasks tailored to each user, making it more versatile and edging. Before we move on to our real-life example, let's quickly talk about comments. Comments are lines in your code that Python ignores. They're just there for you or other developers to understand what's going on. So comments start with a hashtag, and you can use them to describe what your code does. And here's an example of how that's done. We can go along to the second line. We can put here to get the user's input. Say this. We can add another comment here. Function is used to by adding comments to our program, we can tell what each line does. Here we say this function is used to get the user's input in input function. Here the print function is used to output a response to the user. As you can see, our program still works. So comments are super useful, especially when you're working on large projects. It's like leaving notes for your future self or other developers. All right, now, so let's put everything we've learned into practice with a real-life example. A simple project tracker, nothing too fancy. And probably this is something that you can actually use. So here is a snippet of our code. And as you can see on line 1, we have input equal float, input enter your monthly income. This line asks the user for their monthly income using the input function. The prompt enter your monthly income. will be displayed to the user. The input function always return a string by default, but income is a number that might have decimal places like $10.50. So we need to convert that string to a number. The float, open and close bracket function is used to convert the user's input from a string to a floating point number, which is a number that can include decimals. This will result, the resulting in number will be stored in a variable income. On the second line, we have expenses equal float, open bracket input, open bracket, enter your total monthly expense. And here, this line is much similar to the first, but the user is asked for their monthly expenses. And again, it uses the input function to get the user's input and the float function to convert that input into a floating point number. On the third line, we have savings, which is equal to income minus expense. This line calculate the user's savings by subtracting their total monthly expenses from their monthly income. The result of this calculation is stored in a variable savings. On the fifth line, we have a print function that says your saving, okay, that's a typo. Your saving for this month are, you could check out the is. Your savings for this month is, so we have our print function here. This line pretty much displays the user savings for the month with printing the message to the screen. Your savings for this month is, and whatever calculation was stored in savings, that is what the program will print out to the user. So let's go ahead and give this program a run. Enter your income for the month, 100, your monthly expenses, let's say 75.50. Your savings is $24.50. So basically this examples illustrate the core concept of programming. Input, processing, and output. The program interacts with the user by asking for their income and expenses and processes this information to calculate their savings, and then outputs the results in a user-friendly format. And there you have it, your first steps into the world of Python. We covered syntax, variables, input, output, and we even wrote a budget tracker together. If you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe to our TechGalore channel for more awesome tech tutorials and coding. And if you have any questions, drop them down below in the comment section. And stay tuned for the next episode where we'll dive even deeper into Python. Until then, keep coding, keep learning, and keep creating. We'll see you in the next one.